I live my life a quarter mile at a time. And nothing else matters. For those 10 seconds or less, I'm free. The open road could take you anywhere. To friends, to family. We know he's an O'Connor, but he's also a Toronto.
To love or adventure.
Let's do it.
To see something new.
What do you mean, drift?
But just to come back home again. Home sweet home.
The Fast and the Furious saga has explored the endless possibility of the open road.
From the streets just outside downtown Los Angeles, we've taken you to Miami.
We've taken you to Tokyo.
The Dominican Republic.
Rio. London.
Abu Dhabi.
And now, our name is known all over the world.
One last ride.
We have raced for speed. Raced for honor.
Dude, I almost had you.
Careened through cities, tumbled down mountains, and even dropped out of the sky.
But no matter how our adventures grow, Fast and the Furious is always about one very important thing. Family.
The most important thing in life will always be the people in this room. Salute mi familia.
Our family of characters do everything for each other and with each other.
For the millions who make up our global family of fans,
We push ourselves to go further and do better, time after time.
We never ride alone.
We never ride alone.
We never ride alone.
This time it ain't just about being fast.
Now we embark on our next chapter. Our family will be challenged like never before.
By adversaries who show no mercy.
Testing that bond that has always kept us together. In our most ambitious, most entertaining, fastest, and most furious ride yet. This is Fast and Furious.
2015's Fast and Furious 7 was one of the fastest movies ever to reach $1 billion worldwide and the sixth biggest global title in box office history. The Fate of the Furious, also known simply as F8, is out to break that record by revving up the action, emotion, intensity, humor, and fun. Now that Dom and Letty are married, and Brian and Mia are retired, the rest of the team remains and has found a semblance of a normal life. But they get called to action when a beautiful and mysterious woman seduces Dom into her world of crime and betrayal. She gets him to turn his back on the family he has built. Will his once dark heart return and embrace his previous life of crime? Sides change, lines are crossed. Those that were closest to Dom will face trials that will test them as never before. From the color of Cuba and the seamy streets of New York to the bone-chilling frozen flats of Iceland, the elite group must race to stop the anarchist called Cypher from unleashing chaos on the world. They must fight for a cause as well to try and redeem the man who once united them as family. The newly rogue Vin Diesel is joined by Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham, as well as a returning cast, and a star-studded array of newcomers, including Charlize Theron and Helen Mirren. The producer, Neil Moritz, has film in his blood. His father worked in the publicity department at American International Pictures, and his grandfather owned movie theaters in Los Angeles. He graduated from the USC School of Cinema Television in 1985 and has over 70 films to his credit, including several other Fast and Furious films and the Triple X series. Greetings, Neil. How did you come up with the idea for F8?
We knew that if we were going to continue, we needed to do something different, but not like a different in a jump the shark kind of way. And we were just really talking about the characters and what we could do. And when the idea came up of that Dom turns against the team, that was just like kind of a light bulb went off in all of us that was a really interesting path to take. And we felt like we just needed something different. We wanted the audience to give the audience what they expect in a Fast and Furious movie, but we didn't want to give them only what they expect. So throwing that wrench into it, I think, is really interesting for us as filmmakers and really, hopefully, interesting for the audience as well.
There's a sequence you shot on location in Iceland. Tell us about that.
We wrote the sequence where it was a race across a frozen lake. And then, so it's on the page and it's like, oh, well, now where are we going to shoot this? And in Iceland, we were actually able to do this and we were just sweating it out. It was like, is the lake going to freeze thick enough that we can do what we need to do? But it was an amazing location. We have terrific footage from there. And I can honestly say I don't think anybody's going to ever see an action sequence like the one we filmed on the frozen lake in Iceland. It's an incredible third act.
Thanks, Neil. As we say at USC, fight on. Chris Morgan is both a screenwriter and a producer. Chris Morgan Productions set up a first-look deal with Universal in 2011. He has been involved in almost every episode, and this is his 6th Fast and Furious film. Chris, it would seem that you are the driving force for this franchise. How do you keep the ride interesting?
It's the fun of daydreaming what you would want to see when you go to the theater. What's something you haven't seen before? What's the coolest way to use cars? What's the most audacious stunt we can get away with within our grounded, look, we're always heightened, but we try to keep it kind of, I don't want to say blue collar, but just real on the street with real people. And our guys aren't superheroes. Our guys, they just have a lot of heart, a lot of heart.
What about sets and locations?
So designing set pieces, yeah, every time you do it, you try to think of what's something bigger, what's something cooler, what's something you haven't seen in film before. Where are we going to go next? Ooh, that's the big question. That's the big question.
How is the premise of this installment different?
What happens to our crew and our family when the patriarch of that family, who's been preaching these lessons of you never turn your back on family, that you're always there for each other, what happens if he breaks those rules? What happens if he goes dark? What happens if our team has to go against their own brother?
Tell us about supervillain Cypher, played by the beautiful Charlize Theron.
Not a lot of challenges that are particularly difficult for these guys anymore. So when you're thinking about doing a next film, you really have to think about who is going to put them on their heels a little bit. Who's a force strong enough to go up on screen against Vin and really give it to him. Thus Charlize, thus the character of Cypher. So we wanted to have someone who was very tech-oriented, who pretty much can get any information, anything at any time. She is incredibly intelligent. She is incredibly dangerous. The thing that is most dangerous about her is that she is well thought out. She has a plan in place, and by the time you're aware of it, it is already 18 steps in, and there's no going back out of it.
Why did you choose Gary Gray to direct this film?
He has a really, his primary focus is really hitting the character moments, really hitting the character dynamics, the acting. Like for him to be there and he's completely focused and trying things to get it in there, it was great to watch. And I think you'll see in this film amazing performances from Vin and from Charlize and from our entire cast.
Thanks, Chris. You've got everyone wondering what's next. Director Felix Gary Gray was born in New York. He began his career in 1989 as an actor. 3 years later, he directed several music videos for Ice Cube, as well as for other artists such as Cypress Hill, Outkast, Dr. Dre, and Queen Latifah. Gary directed his first film when he was only 24. His credits now include a host of music videos, as well as hit movies such as The Italian Job, Law Abiding Citizen, and Straight Outta Compton. He previously directed Vin Diesel in the action thriller A Man Apart. Hi, Gary. I'd like to start by asking about the first location in this film, Cuba.
It's just another world. It's rich in culture. The people are phenomenal. And what better way to open a movie that has a bunch of cars and a bunch of action sequences with cars than Cuba? Because you have all these classic American cars. And we opened the movie with an amazing race in Cuba with American cars, American muscle. It's the perfect place, not only for the story, but just as a backdrop to open Fast 8, and I loved it.
Okay, you got us hooked. Tell us more about the Cuban mile race.
What I keep hearing is just going back to the basics, car racing, just racing for pink slips. And this is something they did quite a bit in the beginning. And that's why I opened the movie in Cuba. It's just a pure American muscle cars, pure racing for pink slips, and that's it. It's not a whole bunch of fancy stuff going on, that comes later, but just giving the fans exactly what they want is the concept behind Cuba. And we did it. And I think people will love it.
Shooting in Iceland is a big jump from tropical Cuba.
Iceland was the biggest contrast to Cuba. You know, I looked at it as fire and ice. You had summer in Cuba and you had winter in Iceland. And I wanted that to feel so different and to be able to shoot a car action sequence, a chase, and a race on ice. It is just logistically pretty insane.
You had some fantastic vehicles in Iceland, didn't you?
You know, to have a Lamborghini on ice, a tank, Hobbs vehicle, all of these vehicles weren't necessarily made to go 200 miles an hour on ice, but the team did a great job at engineering, figuring out, delivering these vehicles, not only to just for the characters, but for these action sequences.
Tell us a bit about Statham fighting Johnson in prison.
One of the more dynamic moments in the movie is the prison fight sequence. And that is where Jason Statham, his character, Deckard Shaw, is fighting his way to get out of the prison. And Hobbs, played by Dwayne Johnson, of course, is fighting to keep this guy in prison. They're both prisoners, but they're fighting for different reasons, and that's what makes it really dynamic. And what I love about it is that it's two different fighting styles. Jason Statham has this kind of cool martial arts parkour style with Dwayne, The Rock, who comes in. Hobbs, he's just crushing everything like just buildings. There's no finesse, no style. He's just knocking dudes out. And I love the contrast, not only in their motivations, but the contrast in their styles of fighting.
I've heard that you upped the game for Vin Diesel's acting skills.
You'll see a performance like no other from Vin Diesel. This is something that he's never done before. He's never had to sit in this emotional pocket as Dom. And so I took a really specific approach to make sure that we were honest about his reactions, about his reaction to the story, his reaction to the team, and his performance just overall. And I think he did an amazing job.
What would you like to say to the fans of the franchise?
I think for the loyal fans, you're going to see a story that is thoughtful and thinks about you, because we're going to give you the action that you want. We're going to go back to the basics. We're going to show you some new stuff. We're going to give you some new characters, but we're going to all bring it together in a thoughtful way. And we do that because we care about you and we care about what you think.
Thanks so much, Gary. That love for the franchise Gary was just talking about is set to blast from the starting line and is looking for another record finish at the box office. And although the end of the Furious Films franchise has been stated before, fans continue to be in the driver's seat as it has been announced that The Fate of the Furious is only the first chapter of a new trilogy. Some of the story and new cast will carry over into the next two installments as fans keep asking Vin Diesel for one more ride. This is Mike for Backstage Movie News. See you at the movies. Here's the trailer.
All right, team, listen up. This crew is about family, but the game has changed now. Dominic Toretto just went rogue.
You gonna turn your back on family? I know it looks bad. Don't give up on him so easy.
We've only got one chance to make this family whole again.
Don't do this, Dom.
You ready?
One thing I can guarantee, no one's ready for this.
She's the very definition of high-tech terrorism.
There's thousands of cars in this city, and now they're all mine.
Now I know what it feels like to be every cop ever chasing us. Wait! Ah! Oh, damn!
London, Abu Dhabi, Cuba. Our paths have crossed before, Dom. You just didn't know it. I think I need to remind you why you chose to be here.
I got no choice.
If you're gonna catch Dom, you're gonna need a little help.
You want to tell me why you just put me in a room with this tea and crumpets eating criminal?
You know, I think that tight t-shirt's cutting off the circulation in your brain. You should get a bigger size.
You guys are gonna work together.
Love to.
I've been waiting for this. We got a tank. Now it's my turn. Boom, baby!
They just don't give up, do they?
You thought this was gonna be a street fight.
Is that a torpedo?
Take the wheel.
What? This is crazy!
Alright, you get style points for that one.
Woo!
I don't know why you're doing this, but I know one thing. You love me.
Fire! Hang on to your ass!